Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
Whole bunch of people sent me a story out of Ohio because it involves the lemon law, which of course is the law that I specialize in. Each state has one. Ohio has one, as does Michigan. And the interesting angle here is that the police department down there bought a Ford Explorer. And the Ford Explorer apparently went up in smoke. And so the insurance company stepped in and paid for it. And now they're seeking to get compensated by Ford Motor Company for the fact that this thing went up like that. And Ford has argued and said that the lemon law claim needs to be dismissed, and that, in fact, what burned wasn't even a motor vehicle under Ohio's lemon law. Now, as odd as that sounds, I believe they're right. But doesn't mean that they can't recover their money. They just have to recover it in another way, such as under the Uniform Commercial Code, which will apply in this situation, but I'll get to there. Ford wants lemon law claim dismissed from Westchester Police Vehicle Engine Combustion case. And of course, an internal combustion engine does involve some combustion, but it controls the combustion within the engine. And so when the outside of the engine and the engine compartment combust, that's a whole different thing. That's an external combustion, which is not good. Ford Motor Company wants the new lemon law claims dismissed following a lawsuit filed by Westchester Township's insurance company after the engine on a new Ford Explorer police cruiser spontaneously combusted. The township and its insurance company filed suit in Butler County Common Pleas Court in February against Ford and a Ford dealership, seeking $48,353 or more, because they're also seeking punitive and other damages in a product liability suit. And the interesting thing here is it's the insurance company stepping in and filing the claim, but they're doing it because they paid the claim, and then the people who had the claim originally assigned their rights to the insurance company. The insurance company can go back and try to recover the money. I actually have a very good friend who does this kind of work for insurance companies who routinely calls me and says, "Hey, Steve, I got an issue. Can I invoke this law or that law here to do this?" And quite a lot of them involve the UCC, the Uniform Commercial Code. So here, the insurance company sued after it had to pay when one of the Westchester Police Department's brand new Ford Explorers burst into flames and was totaled in 2021. They filed a complaint, and they filed a new amended complaint a couple weeks ago, adding two more defendants and a new lemon law claim. And here's the thing. The addition of the defendants was probably necessary and a good thing, but it also points out one of the defenses that Ford's going to have. Because Ford, I don't believe, sells the cars equipped as police vehicles. I think Ford sells the vehicles as Explorers, and somebody else modifies the vehicles. And of course, if you're Ford, the first thing you're going to wonder is, did this thing burst into flames because it was modified in some way that was inappropriate? So after being notified of the Ford Explorer's nonconformity, defendant Ford took no action to repair, replace, or return and refund the full purchase price of the Explorer, the complaint reads, citing the lemon law. So they're basically saying, look, it's defective, Ford didn't fix it. Well, Ford's filed a response to the lawsuit denying wrongdoing, and they also filed a motion to dismiss the lemon law claim, saying a police vehicle does not fall under the definition of a motor vehicle under the lemon law, which only covers passenger cars and non-commercial motor vehicles. Now, you might say, but Steve, isn't a police car a passenger car? Well, it depends on what you're looking at. And so here, if you go and pull the statute of the lemon law itself, section 1345.71, it defines a motor vehicle, and it says it means any passenger car or non-commercial motor vehicle. Now, whether it's a passenger car or not, for the purposes to which it's being put is one thing. Is it a non-commercial motor vehicle? And the question then becomes, has it ever been defined or tested under the Ohio statutes? And I did find the Ohio Attorney General on the AG site says the lemon law applies to passenger cars, motorcycles, and other non-commercial motor vehicles which are designed to carry no more than 1 ton load and are used exclusively for personal use. And so a police car is not being used for exclusively personal use. So it would appear to be that the lemon law does not apply there. But that's going to get hashed out by the courts. The subject vehicle is not a motor vehicle under Ohio law, and plaintiffs cannot assert a lemon law claim for alleged defects in the subject vehicle, according to the motion. And here's the real thing. The motion points out that Ford couldn't repair the vehicle because they weren't notified in time. In fact, they were notified of the fire 3 months after the vehicle was totaled. So the law says that if you've got a vehicle that has a problem that cannot be repaired, you notify the manufacturer. And if the manufacturer cannot repair it, then that invokes the Lemon Law. But if your vehicle burns to the ground and it had no previous problems, you never notified Ford of anything, and then you call them up and go, guys, my vehicle burned. Well, you might have a warranty claim, but you don't have a Lemon Law claim. And you might say, Steve, that's such a fine distinction. Well, it's a fine distinction as the Lemon Law was designed specifically for certain types of vehicles and certain types of plaintiffs. It wasn't designed for every vehicle out there, okay? And so I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm simply saying that's how the laws were written. And I've had a lot of people call me up with what are, in essence, commercial vehicles. I bought a work truck for my landscaping business, and it blew up. And I say, well, the Lemon Law won't cover it, but the UCC, which covers basic breach of warranty, will. Because presumably, if the vehicle catches fire and burns to the ground, that is a breach of the warranty. It just doesn't fit the weird thing with the Lemon Law saying the number of repair attempts and so on. Ohio courts have held that a manufacturer of a vehicle must be afforded ample opportunity to repair the vehicle for a plaintiff to recover under the Lemon Law. According to the lawsuit, the township bought the vehicle in January of 21, and it was deployed for the first time in May of 21 for a 12-hour shift. That shift change, another officer got the vehicle, was patrolling, and was dispatched to an emergency call. He drove about 65 miles an hour for 3 miles to reach the incident. He left the vehicle running because his lights were activated, and 2 minutes later, someone yelled that his vehicle was on fire. He tried to use his onboard fire extinguisher, but to no avail, and flames were visible under the Explorer and through the Explorer's hood area. The fire department was called and extinguished the fire with reports including, at the time, the Explorer was destroyed by an engine fire. It had an odometer reading of approximately 150 miles. Low-mileage Explorer ran when parked. The suit says that the insurance company paid the township for the damaged vehicle, but Westchester had to pay a $500 deductible, and they want to be made whole, and then some. Action asks the court to award actual, compensatory, exemplary, punitive, and other damages to the insurance company to stop Ford from manufacturing other defective vehicles. As is customary at the beginning of the lawsuit, the defendants will file answers addressing the complaints paragraph by paragraph. Ford and the dealership have filed these, in most cases denying the claims or writing the defendant lacks knowledge or information sufficient to form a belief as to the truth of the allegations. And so that's the entire situation right there. I can tell you that I've seen cases before where somebody bought a brand new vehicle and then did modifications to it. And then there's either an electrical problem or a fire caused by an electrical problem. And the manufacturer steps in and goes, okay, we built a vehicle and we delivered it to somebody, and then they modified it. How do we know the modifications didn't cause these problems? And those cases can get really tricky. And so you'll often end up with experts who will look at a burned vehicle and try to figure out what happened. As you can imagine, a car company's expert will often say, yeah, I came to the conclusion it burst into flames because the modification done at the direction of the buyer by somebody else caused this to happen. That's why I've always been leery of getting modifications done to a brand new vehicle, especially during like the first year or so. Because if anything happens, whether it burns to the ground or not, you'll often have a situation where they'll defend it by saying, you know something, if it happened to an untampered with vehicle, we would have repaired it under warranty. But since somebody tampered with it, we don't know. And some of the modifications, I can see that argument being raised, and some not so much. Someone will say the rear differential in my vehicle went out. And if the manufacturer says, yeah, but you installed an aftermarket stereo. Well, I don't know if you can connect those two together, right? On the other hand, if the car has all kinds of weird electrical problems having to do with the ignition switch, and it turns out that this is in a time before these were factory installed, you had installed a remote starter, or somebody had done one for you. And they're going to go, well, gee, you got a problem with this system, and somebody's tampered with that system. And I've had those cases. And you get in a fight over who caused the problem. So I'd be curious to know who it was that outfitted this Explorer to be a police car. Because I've seen the stuff that's running in police cars when they're on patrol, And it's a lot of stuff, and they don't just plug that into the cigarette lighter. And I suspect that there's been some modifications done to the electrical system to hook all that stuff up at the very least. But most importantly, and this is something that some people get confused by, and you say, Steve, what is a motor vehicle? I've had people ask me, I go, Steve, what, they'll ask me a simple question, or they think it's a simple question. They go, what is a motor vehicle? And I say, depends on who's asking. They go, I'm asking. I go, no. There's a problem, though, because the blue books behind me, which are the laws of the state of Michigan, have different sections that talk about motor vehicles. And it'll actually say, under this section, a motor vehicle is this. Under this section, a motor vehicle is thus. Under this section, and you might go, but Steve, why? Well, because the Lemon Law, they decided not to have it cover commercial vehicles. So they'll say it's all these different things, but not a commercial vehicle. On the other hand, under the Motor Vehicle Code, with respect to, I don't know, if you're driving down the road and you break the laws regarding traffic, it'll say if you're in a motor vehicle, that motor vehicle definition is much more expansive and covers a lot more stuff. And so it just depends on which statute you're looking at. And so keep in mind that under the Uniform Commercial Code, which talks about warranties for the sale of goods, it doesn't even bother to say motor vehicles. It just says goods. So if what you have is a thing, pretty much, and you bought that thing from somebody who's a merchant with respect to goods of that kind, i.e. you bought a car from a car dealer, it is goods covered by the Uniform Commercial Code. So if I had to bet money, and I'm not a betting man, but if I was, and you said, Steve, bet money, what's going to happen here? I'd say, well, their motion to dismiss the Lemon Law claim will probably be granted, but they'll be able to proceed on their UCC claims, assuming they filed a bunch. And I hope they did. I don't have the complaint in front of me, and nobody mentions the UCC, but that would be a no-brainer to mention breach of warranty, which arises under the Uniform Commercial Code, which has been adopted in Ohio. So there you go. Like I said, a bunch of people sent it. Thanks a lot. From the Journal News out of Westchester Township, Ford wants Lemon Law claim dismissed from Westchester police vehicle engine combustion fire because they say that the Lemon Law itself does not apply directly to this vehicle. But, as I pointed out, other laws might. There you go. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. Everyone smiles in the same language.